You think you are free, but every day someone is shaping your thoughts, nudging your choices, steering your actions, and you don't even notice. Manipulation isn't loud, it isn't obvious. It's subtle, invisible, and devastatingly effective. Carl Jung and Machiavelli both understood the truth. The world is full of people who prey on unawareness, who feed on blind trust, and who turn your kindness, emotion, and certainty into tools against you. Most people think manipulation happens in grand gestures. A lie here, a scheme there. But real manipulation is quiet. It works in whispers, suggestions, and patterns you fail to see. The cunning don't just control what you do, they control what you think you want. And until you understand this, you are enslaved. This video will strip away the illusion. You'll learn why you've been predictable, why your emotions make you weak, and how appearances have been controlling your reality. You'll discover the strategies manipulators use and why most people fall for the same trap again and again. But here's the dark truth. Freedom from manipulation isn't found in ignorance or avoidance. It's found in awareness, discipline, and the ruthless clarity to see the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. By the end, you won't just recognize manipulation, you'll become untouchable. 1. People don't want truth, they want comfort. Most manipulation succeeds not because people are weak, but because they are comfortable with illusion. The harshest truths are often rejected, ignored, or rationalized away, while lies wrapped in reassurance are swallowed without hesitation. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. The human desire for comfort outweighs the drive for reality. And in that desire lies the seed of control. Every day you witness it. People cling to comforting narratives. Everything will work out. They meant well. It wasn't that bad, even when evidence screams otherwise. Your mind prefers the warmth of certainty over the chill of truth, and manipulators exploit this instinct with deadly precision. They don't need force. They need persuasion that feels right. They feed your craving for reassurance, not your capacity for discernment. Imagine a world where every word, every smile, every nod is carefully designed to soothe you, to make you feel safe, understood, or validated. On the surface, it feels benevolent. But beneath the surface, control is being carved into your mind, shaping decisions, emotions, and perception without resistance. People want comfort, and manipulators give it in exchange for influence. Machiavelli warned that those who understand human nature exploit this flaw. Truth is a weapon few can wield because few want to face it. If reality is inconvenient, they will ignore it. If the truth challenges their sense of self, they will rationalize it away. And the clever manipulator knows this instinct intimately. They don't have to argue. They just soothe. They don't have to force. They just reassure. And suddenly you are dancing to a tune you didn't hear being played. The danger isn't just external. Often we manipulate ourselves first, clinging to comforting illusions rather than confronting hard truths. We tell ourselves we are capable when we aren't, safe when we aren't, ready when we aren't. And then the world, and those with keen eyes, take advantage of that self-deception. Machiavelli's lesson is simple. The person who craves comfort above truth will always be vulnerable. The one who embraces reality, no matter how uncomfortable, is untouchable. This is why self-mastery begins with brutal honesty. To free yourself from manipulation, you must first strip away the illusions you tell yourself. You must confront the moments when you chose comfort over clarity, reassurance over discernment, ease over awareness. Only then can you recognize when others attempt the same. Only then do you stop being the puppet of emotions, expectations, or soothing lies. Most people will never do this. They would rather live in a pleasant lie than face the discomfort of reality. And that is why the world is filled with manipulators and the manipulated. They thrive because you want to be soothed. They fail only when you demand truth, even when it burns. So remember this. People rarely want what is real. They want what feels safe. And until you reject the warmth of illusion, you will always be subject to the cold precision of control. Freedom from manipulation begins not in strength or strategy, but in truth, however bitter it may be. Because reality is not polite, and neither should you be when defending your mind. 2. Appearances are weapons. Perception shapes power. In the battlefield of influence, reality is rarely what it seems. Machiavelli taught that appearances often hold more power than truth. The world doesn't respond to your intentions. It responds to the signals you send. Manipulators understand this instinctively. They craft a version of themselves designed to control perception, not reality. And if you can't see through the illusion, you will always be their pawn. Think about it. People don't judge based on facts alone. They judge based on what feels true. Confidence, composure, charm, authority. These aren't just social cues. They are weapons. A smile can disarm suspicion. A calm voice can mask deceit. A well-timed gesture can convince you of trustworthiness. Manipulators wield these tools to shape your perception, bending your reality to their advantage without ever confronting you directly. Your own mind often compounds the problem. You want people to be good, honest, or fair. You interpret appearances through hope, not skepticism. That's why charisma can be more dangerous than brute force. A manipulator doesn't need to coerce you. They only need to appear aligned with your desires, values, or expectations. Once your perception is controlled, your behavior follows. You give away influence because you think you are making a choice. This is where awareness becomes your shield. To resist manipulation, you must train yourself to see beyond appearances. Machiavelli's insight is clear. Intentions are hidden, but patterns are visible. Someone who smiles while sowing discord, who praises while undermining, or who comforts while deceiving leaves traces. The observant mind notices these cracks, even if the untrained eye sees only polish. Perception itself is a battlefield. Manipulators exploit our biases, social instincts, and desire for narrative coherence. They understand that humans prefer stories over facts. If someone crafts a convincing story, the mind obeys it. They don't fight you. They seduce you into believing their version of reality. Your reactions, emotions, and decisions become the evidence they need to control you further. This is why cultivating discernment is crucial. Stop taking appearances at face value. Examine actions alongside words. Watch for consistency, not charm. Observe the ripple effects of behavior, not the immediate impression. In the age of subtle psychological influence, skepticism is survival. Trust must be earned, not assumed. Remember, the world doesn't reward honesty. It rewards the appearance of honesty. Those who master appearances can control perception, and those who control perception can control reality. Machiavelli was blunt. To navigate power successfully, you must treat appearances as both shield and weapon. They are not optional, they are essential. The lesson is simple but brutal. If you fail to see appearances for what they are, you will always be one step behind the manipulator. Your intuition can only protect you if it is trained to look past charm, polish, and promise. Only then can you act decisively while others are still seduced by illusion. In this world, truth alone does not protect you. Awareness protects you. Clarity protects you. Understanding that appearances are weapons and that perception shapes power is your first step toward freedom from manipulation. See clearly, question relentlessly, judge cautiously, and never forget, in the theater of influence, reality is secondary, perception is king. 3. Emotions make you predictable. Emotions are powerful. They are the fire that fuels human action, the pulse of instinct, the language of the soul. But they are also the easiest chains to slip onto your wrists without noticing. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. The emotionally reactive are the most predictable, and therefore the easiest to manipulate. Fear, anger, love, and guilt are not just feelings. They are weapons waiting to be wielded by those who understand human nature. Consider fear. Fear triggers urgency, panic, and submission. It bypasses reason, forcing immediate reaction. A manipulator doesn't need to convince you with logic. They simply need to ignite fear. Threats of loss, failure, or social rejection make people comply almost automatically. Once fear is active, your mind is no longer yours. It becomes a battlefield for someone else's agenda. Anger works similarly. When your blood boils, your judgment clouds. Decisions made in rage are rarely strategic. They are instinctive, reactionary, and therefore predictable. Manipulators know that if they can provoke anger, they can direct it, whether against themselves, others, or even yourself. Your predictable reactions become a map for their control. Love, trust, and loyalty are also vulnerabilities. A manipulator exploits the human desire to be cared for, to be valued, to belong. They understand that the heart's generosity can blind the mind's discernment. By flattering, reassuring, or emotionally bonding, they guide your actions without resistance. You act out of attachment, not awareness. Your decisions are shaped more by desire for connection than clarity of judgment. Guilt is perhaps the most insidious of all. A well-placed suggestion, a moral question, or a subtle accusation can make you doubt yourself. Manipulators know that guilt forces compliance, reshapes priorities, and silences dissent. Your internal compass is hijacked not by force, but by suggestion. The solution, Machiavelli teaches, is not the absence of emotion. Emotions are essential to human life. The solution is mastery. The calm, strategic mind refuses to react before analysis. It observes its own impulses, distinguishes instinct from manipulation, and chooses action deliberately. Emotional awareness becomes armor. Awareness of your triggers and patterns transforms vulnerability into strength. This does not mean cold detachment. It means control. A warrior who cannot be manipulated is not one who feels nothing. He is one who feels consciously. He recognizes when fear is being used, when anger is being provoked, when love is exploited. He He processes before responding, and in that pause, the manipulator loses power. The reactive are predictable. The reflective are untouchable. When you stop giving your emotions to external influence and begin managing them internally, you reclaim your sovereignty. Machiavelli's ultimate insight: emotional discipline is not optional, it is essential. The mind that reacts immediately is enslaved. The mind that chooses response is free. In a world ruled by subtlety and cunning, your emotional control is your most lethal weapon. It shields you from manipulation, grants clarity, and makes your actions impossible to anticipate. Those who understand emotion as power, not weakness, ascend beyond the reach of the manipulative. Your heart can feel, your soul can burn, and your mind can still remain untouchable. That is the art of emotional mastery, and the first step to never being manipulated again. 4. Know the patterns of deception. Manipulation rarely strikes like lightning. It doesn't emerge spontaneously. Instead, it moves in patterns, subtle, repeated, and carefully crafted. Machiavelli understood this with ruthless clarity. Foresight is power, and the ability to anticipate the manipulator's moves is the ultimate defense. If you can recognize the rhythm of deceit, the signals before the trap snaps, you can step aside, strike first, or remain untouched. Most people fall victim because they treat manipulation as chaos, a unique, unpredictable event. But cunning individuals rely on patterns. Flattery, scarcity, obligation, guilt, moral judgment, these tactics are predictable. The manipulator doesn't improvise as often as they repeat what works. By observing, analyzing, and understanding these patterns, you can see the web before stepping into it. Take flattery. It isn't just praise, it's a lure. Compliments are strategically deployed to disarm your skepticism, to make you feel understood, admired, or special. Once the emotional hook is set, decisions that seem natural to you are guided by another's hand. Scarcity works similarly. The manipulator limits access to attention, approval, or resources. Act now or lose out becomes an invisible leash. You make choices not based on reason, but on the fear of missing something. This is no accident. It's behavioral engineering. Obligation is another classic tactic. Guilt, favors, and social debt are used to force compliance without confrontation. You comply because you feel you must, not because you consciously choose. Moral shaming, meanwhile, leverages your own ethical standards against you. The manipulator weaponizes your conscience, making deviation from their expectations feel wrong, even if it serves their agenda. The key is recognition. Patterns are predictable. Every manipulator repeats strategies because humans are creatures of habit, guided by emotion and expectation. If you see the repeated tactics, you disrupt the rhythm. You remove the automaticity that feeds their control. The same arrow that once hit the target now finds an empty path. Machiavelli knew this well. Power is a game of anticipation. The manipulative individual thrives on reaction. But the person who observes patterns, who sees the method beneath the masquerade, becomes untouchable. They no longer act instinctively. They act deliberately. They respond on their terms, not the manipulator's. Foresight is not mere suspicion. It is strategic perception. It is the ability to detect influence before it enters your decision-making process. It is studying human behavior and understanding that certain moves almost always precede specific outcomes. Recognize the flattery, the guilt, the scarcity, the moral play, and you strip the manipulator of their power. The world is filled with people who thrive on the predictable reactions of others. They will continue to try, to test, to push. But when you understand the patterns of deception, the trap loses its teeth. You no longer stumble, you anticipate. You no longer react, you control. In the chessboard of influence, awareness of pattern is the first checkmate. Machiavelli's timeless lesson: the manipulative are only dangerous to the unobservant. Study their moves, see the repetition, and the game becomes yours. Predictable tactics meet unpredictable mastery, and suddenly manipulation fails before it even begins. 5. Power without awareness is slavery. Knowledge alone does not free you. Understanding manipulation in theory, reading the books, watching the lessons, recognizing the strategies is not enough. Power is a living force, moving through relationships, perceptions, and decisions. Machiavelli's brutal insight was simple. If you are unaware of how power flows around you, you will inevitably become its prisoner. Freedom from manipulation requires more than awareness. It requires vigilance, discipline, and relentless self-mastery. Consider the world we live in. Every interaction is a dance of influence. Every word spoken, every gesture made, every promise given or withheld is an opportunity for control. Those who fail to see these dynamics are unconsciously shaped by them. They allow others to decide what they think, how they feel, and ultimately, how they act. In effect, they surrender their will, their decisions, their freedom, and live as slaves to the agendas of others. Machiavelli did not romanticize power. He described it with the cold precision of a strategist. The weak are not merely powerless. They are predictable, exposed, and controlled. Manipulation is most effective against those who move through life oblivious to the invisible strings. And these strings are everywhere, in the flattery of allies, the pressure of peers, the influence of leaders, the subtle moral plays of strangers. Awareness of them is the first step toward liberation. But awareness alone is passive. To be free, you must act. Vigilance is necessary, not as paranoia, but as clarity. Self-mastery allows you to control your reactions, to prevent your emotions from being a leash. Strategic thinking turns observation into action, a conscious response rather than a reflexive surrender. Freedom is not simply seeing the manipulator. It is knowing when to move, when to resist, and when to strike preemptively. Machiavelli understood that the human mind is naturally inclined to submission. We seek comfort, approval, and security. Manipulators exploit this inclination to control perception and behavior. The untrained mind does not see the trap until it's sprung. The trained mind sees the web, calculates the risk, and navigates around it. Awareness becomes armor, discipline becomes weapon, and strategy becomes freedom. The lesson is stark. Power flows to those who see, understand, and act. Those who remain blind, distracted, or unreflective are guided by forces outside their control. They may call it chance, fate, or circumstance, but it is simply manipulation. They are slaves in a world that honors cunning and foresight. True freedom demands conscious engagement with reality. It demands that you recognize influence, master your emotions, and anticipate the moves of those who would steer you. It demands that you act deliberately rather than react impulsively. This is not easy. It is uncomfortable. It requires vigilance at all times, self-reflection, and the courage to resist patterns designed to control you. Those who succeed are untouchable. They are not swayed by flattery, guilt, or fear. They do not collapse under moral games, scarcity tactics, or emotional triggers. They see the world clearly, act decisively, and wield their own power. Slavery is no longer possible because the tools of manipulation cannot penetrate a mind that observes, understands, and directs itself. Machiavelli's final truth is timeless. Knowledge is a beginning, but mastery is liberation. Awareness without action is observation. Power without awareness is slavery. But vigilance, self-mastery, and strategic thought create freedom. To live untouchable in a world built on manipulation, you must not only see, you must act. Manipulation is not a rare weapon wielded by the malicious few. It is the invisible force shaping almost every interaction you have in relationships, at work, even within your own mind. Machiavelli's insight is harsh but true. If you move through life unaware of power, influence, and human nature, you are not free. You are a pawn in a game you cannot see, and the strings are pulled by those who understand the rules. Freedom from manipulation is not achieved through luck, naivety, or blind morality. It comes through awareness, seeing patterns before they trap you, recognizing emotion before it hijacks your choices, and discerning appearances before they mislead your perception. But awareness alone is not enough. Vigilance, self-mastery, and strategic thought transform knowledge into power. They turn insight into immunity. The untouchable mind is calm, deliberate, and observant. It does not react blindly to flattery, fear, or guilt. It perceives the motives behind the words and actions of others. It anticipates deception before it strikes. It is disciplined in thought and unwavering in judgment. To live free in a world built on subtle influence, you must master yourself first. You must confront your vulnerabilities, train your emotions, and develop foresight. Only then can you navigate the complex currents of human behavior without being pulled under. Machiavelli's timeless lesson is simple. Freedom is not given, it is claimed. Those who understand the dynamics of power, who see the patterns of manipulation, and who act with deliberate mastery, are never enslaved. They walk untouchable through the chaos, guided not by illusion, but by clarity, strategy, and unyielding self-mastery. The world will always try to bend you. The question is, will you bend or will you stand untouchable?